And welcome back to Who Would Win. I'm just pre-recording a bunch of shit for the next couple of days because I will be a little busy next couple of days. So from I believe it's Honan, we have the question of who wins in a fight: Alien X versus the Living Tribunal. Basically, one who's kind of the guy who governs the balance of the entirety of reality in the Marvel universe, and Alien X, a celestial sapien who basically exists outside of the standard universe and conventions of it, and can warp reality on a whim. Well, both these guys can warp reality on a whim. So now let's get that away. In terms of like what they're capable of doing, it's anything they want. We're talking about the scale and therefore who trumps who in terms of the scaling. And by the way, this was probably my more preferred design for Alien X. Now, I don't like that giant chin version. I just don't. But in terms of weaknesses that come about from this, one, Living Tribunal really only steps in when things are, like, balances are just completely out of whack. And I don't see Alien X really being that kind of being to do that. If someone like the Beyonder can't cause Living Tribunal to step in a lot of the time, and sometimes he has, but then Alien X technically wouldn't. But we're talking about who would win in a confrontation. So the weaknesses these guys have do need to come into factor. All right, now, if we're looking at, say, Ben Tennyson's Alien X, then he can now use it freely, willy-nilly, no problem. He made a deal with the two other personalities to allow him to use Alien X without issue. But if we're dealing with a celestial sapien who isn't Ben 10, the chances are they're just going to spend the time arguing most of the time until they come to a decision. Now, that being said, however, if they're coming up against something as strong as them or possibly stronger, yeah, they're probably going to come to a decision to fight that thing. So right out the gate, that should be fine. And I think their weakness is mitigated. Eternity. Living Tribunal, the powers are apparently drawn from like the abstract entity realms and abstract entities like Infinity, Eternity, Oblivion, all that. So his power has varied over the years. But if we're looking at these guys at their peaks, unfortunately, it doesn't really come down to a contest of power. It's not going to come down. In a contest of power, it's kind of done from the beginning. The Living Tribunal outscales Alien X by a large margin, actually. I believe right now, from what I can find from verses and from tier lists and all that, Alien X scales to roughly hyperversal, roughly. He is multiversal, he is hyperversal, like he can affect the multiverse to certain degrees, whatever. Living Tribunal, though, does scale to outerversal, which is beyond that. It is like basically in high outerversal, to be short. He is basically, the buck stops here, save for the one above all and the one below all. That's it. Those are the only two individuals that outrank the Living Tribunal at its full power in the entirety of Marvel's verse, period. So, whereas there are, in fact, individuals that do, in theory, supersede Alien X. There's not many of them, but as far as I know, they do exist in the Ben 10 universe. Now, that doesn't mean much for a fight. Someone who maybe isn't as strong as other people in their verse can still beat someone who's the strongest in the other verse. But we're talking about in the concept of versal fights. Someone who's basically governs the entirety of all other realities, save for the one above the House of Ideas, and then the opposite spot where the one below all lives. It does outrank the level of scaling that Alien X brings to the table. So unfortunately for Alien X and Ben 10 fans, this is a character Alien X would not be able to go up against, unfortunately. This, though, is just my opinion, based on the facts I have at hand. So, in a fight, it wouldn't, granted, it would be, let me put it this way. Alien X is like a very amped Infinity Gauntlet. He has all those capabilities, but the Living Tribunal completely one-upped the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, he undid it. The Infinity Gauntlet really just gives you complete and absolute control over a single universe, too. Now, Alien X has power well beyond the Infinity Gauntlet, but if you were to theoretically put him in a verse against the Infinity Gauntlet that's working, well, as long as he stays within that universe, he does have the Infinity Gauntlet could go toe-to-toe with Alien X. It's now if he tries to break down that universe or something like that, that individual wielding the Infinity Gauntlet would be in trouble. But anyway, I digress. So Alien X, I think, would put up a good fight, but he's just out-muscled in this case. both can do what the other can and then some. So it's all about the level of energy and power they have at their disposal. So I would definitely go Living Tribunal for this fight. But this is just my opinion with the facts I have at hand, as I said. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.